Okay, so in my spoiler-free review of Project Hail Mary, I described why the movie works both because of how Andy Weir's source novel of the same name matches the creative style of directing duo Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and that Ryan Gosling was perfectly cast as lead protagonist Ryland Grace. But with that said, I purposefully ignored the other big aspect of the movie, something that was in the trailer, but I wanted to keep under wraps for anyone who still didn't know what the big narrative kicker was for the movie. A reveal that gave the movie its much needed heart, which is to say, fucking aliens. See, a little while after Grace wakes up from his space coma, our human hero encounters an alien spacecraft, and thankfully for Grace and the human race, this alien is peaceful rather than this sexual assault metaphor or this asshole who fell off the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. No, this alien is friendly, and actually hopes to collaborate with Grace because the alien's planet, of which Grace learns is the planet Iridia, orbits a star that is being affected by the Astrophage, which for an expositional recap, because this will be on the test, the Astrophage are a massive pack of alien microorganisms that, to the human eye, look like a collection of black goo that is reminiscent of the splooge that Eddie Brock deposits inside the friendly neighborhood cum dumpster. Furthermore, the Astrophage can travel through the vacuum of space and migrate towards stars, the celestial kind, not Hollywood, and slowly but surely consume them, which is a major problem if you live on a planet that needs the sun in order to live. You know, like humans and Iridians. Hence why both species sent their own last-ditch Hail Mary of a rocket to the star known as Tau Ceti, which is the only star nearby that remains unaffected by the Astrophage, and maybe therein lies a hope for the salvation for both Earth and Iridia and their respective species. A way to stop the Astrophage. So upon meeting Grace, the Iridian, whom Grace names Rocky because he looks like a large five-legged rock spider, believes that he and Grace should collaborate on saving their worlds as if it were a middle school group project, though one where they have to get an A+ on because anything less means their species are royally fucked. And from there, Grace and Rocky must overcome the barriers of language, knowledge, and biological physiology, you know, because Rocky is literally a rock, no relation, in order to save their home planets and all of the beings who dwell on them. Grace's and Rocky's friendship is Project Hail Mary's emotional core, its heartfelt gravity that pulls the audience in. In fact, the two's misunderstandings due to their special differences are often very amusing, and that's even before adding Grace's chaotic antics to the mix, you know, because he's played by modern Ryan Gosling, but the humor, while being hilariously silly at times because this is still a Lord and Miller film, and the act of being hilariously silly is Lord and Miller's bread and butter, never detracts from the character development as Grace's and Rocky's friendship evolves, and nor does the movie's comedic elements negate the serious apocalyptic stakes of the narrative. Instead, Project Hail Mary's humor endears us to these two characters as that said humor coincides with their character development, which all in turn convinces us to care about the overall plot of the film because we want to see Grace and Rocky succeed. We want to see a world where these two characters and their planet survive, meaning that the film just does an incredible tonal balancing act and sticks the landing incredibly well. And what makes this even more impressive is that Rocky, as a character, is what would either make or break this Project Hail Mary adaptation. After all, in an interview with Consequence, Ryan Gosling described Rocky as the heart of the movie, and then there was the fact that other folks attached to Project Hail Mary were troubled whether or not Rocky could be pulled off convincingly in a live-action movie, an anxiety that was most notably embodied by Project Hail Mary's screenwriter Drew Goddard, who, side note, directed Cabin in the Woods, which is honestly one of my favorite movies, for obvious reasons.
そして今、キコの魂はこのカエルの中で幸せに生き続けていく。
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
In the consequence piece, Goddard stated, "I was terrified of Rocky because I knew how hard that was going to be, to take a spider crab that doesn't have a face and made out of rock and make it the beating emotional heart of the story." End quote. However, Goddard's fear abated upon learning that Lord and Miller were attached to direct the project. Because considering the duo's past pedigree of work, Rocky was something that these two directors could pull off. And after watching Project Hail Mary, it's easy to say that Lord and Miller made pretty much every correct decision possible regarding Rocky. The biggest correct decision being how the filmmakers forewent the utilization of a CGI Rocky in favor of using puppetry, i.e. a practical effect that can more easily interact with the actors, which feels more real and authentic on screen. Which was crucial considering Rocky's lack of having a face, a problem for both a potential visual effect and profiles on dating apps. And in general, a physical presence feels more organic rather than the sometimes uncanny valley effect that can occur with CG, and that proves true for Rocky as well. Like the way Rocky's arms move is, for lack of a better word, humanizing in terms of his breadth of bodily expression. And add-on puppeteer James Ortiz's vocal performance that matches Rocky's movements and expressions. Rocky as a character might technically be an alien, but he doesn't feel like an alien, because on screen he looks as real as Ryland Grace. Impressively, we care about Rocky as if he were a person, albeit a person in the form of a spider crab that is also a rock.